So let me begin by saying good morning to everyone, and it is truly an honor to be here. And to the Z Prime team, always good to see you. And I just wanted to thank you guys as well, because I noticed you're still using that photo from a few years ago, and it doesn't show as much gray. And I really appreciate that. So it is, and also let me just start and say to you, it's amazing when you feel the energy in the room, walking down the hallway and seeing so many friends. It's amazing to think it's been 2 years since we've all had a chance to get together, and recognizing that this is day 3 for you. You know, maybe the excitement is kind of worn down a little bit. I came in last night and immediately just felt the buzz. But to the Z Prime team, thank you once again. Think about this, 2022 ETS Power Up Conference. I was talking with Mike earlier today on an interview with Power Grid, and he goes, you know, we've been talking about these topics for a while, but what's different? What's different? Why is it catching hold? What's going on? And what I'm going to try to frame for you today is Exelon's perspective on many topics, but really why we think the time is now to do these things that we've been talking about as leaders for several years. When you talk about getting together, it's really more important than ever for us to take time to come together to talk about how we, as leaders, can help move our customers, communities, and society toward a clean energy future. And that future, by the way, I think, is closer than we think. And I would respectfully submit to each and every one of you, the future is now. As we all know, last week, the UN released a devastating report on climate change. The warnings in it more dire than ever before. The report said that temperatures on Earth are increasing so quickly that we are rapidly heading toward a time when our planet will be an unlivable place. Those are chilling words. They certainly made me stop and think hard about what kind of world I wanted to leave to my children and my children's children. It made me think about what our customers want, no matter where they live or what they do for a living. For years, our customers have been asking for, demanding, clean, affordable, and reliable energy, with an emphasis on clean. They have been adamant and vocal about about it because no matter our politics, our cultural backgrounds, or our income levels, we can all agree that we want to leave our loved ones a home here on Earth that is comfortable, but more importantly, safe. So we all agree, but still, according to the UN report, global emissions are creeping higher and higher, and the time is getting frighteningly close when the damage to our climate will be irreversible. What does that mean for us here in this room? It means agreement is not enough. We have to do more. We in the global business community must act on our own to achieve the kind of deep emissions reductions that will be required to head off the worst effects of global warming. And we must act now. We cannot wait another day. For us at Exelon, that means taking responsibility for what we can do, not only within our own company, but to drive toward a cleaner energy ecosystem. Now, we've taken many significant steps to move us toward a cleaner energy. It's a critical part of our business strategy. We're investing in technology to prepare the grid for more renewable energy sources while helping customers become more energy efficient. Over the past 10 years, customers across our 6 utilities have saved 140 million megawatt hours of electricity, the equivalent of taking 14 million cars off the road for a year, and billions off their electric bills through energy efficiency programs. We're increasing the use of smart meters and growing DER enablement. At the end of 2020, Exelon Utilities had over 150,000 customers with nearly 2,000 megawatts of net metered renewable energy across our service areas. And that number is increasing steadily. We're working with our partners, many of you in this room, to fund electric vehicle solutions in low and middle income areas, building charging infrastructure for school bus programs, and the electrification of public transport. In 2020, we committed to electrifying 50% of our fleet by 2030 and reducing greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% in the same time frame. Last year, we took those goals even further and announced our Path to Clean. Our initiative of Path to Clean to achieve net zero operations-driven emissions across our 6 utilities by 2050. And I apologize. So for those who don't know us, we operate 6 utilities across the country. Baltimore Gas and Electric in Baltimore, Maryland, ComEd out of Chicago, Pepco out of DC and parts of Maryland, DPL, Delmarva Power and Light out of Wilmington, and PECO, Philadelphia Electric out of Philadelphia. Our utilities committed to that Path to Clean. And as part of our Path to Clean, we will modernize gas systems, electrify our light-duty fleet, and explore electric and other zero-carbon alternatives for our medium and heavy-duty fleet. Focus on energy efficiency and clean electricity for our operations, and reduce FS6 insulating gas from our systems. Over the next 10 years, Exelon anticipates investing nearly $4.8 billion, some of which is already included in the 4-year plan towards this goal. See, as an energy provider, we recognize that we are an indispensable partner in confronting climate change in the communities that we serve, especially in the communities that we serve, because we have the privilege and the responsibility to serve some of the most rich and diverse communities in our country. It's because it means working to reduce our own emissions while helping our customers and communities to do the same. At the same time, we can't talk about clean energy without making sure those benefits are available to everyone. Energy, like so many things we're working to course correct in this country and in our world, is an equity issue. Transportation electrification is an equity issue. DER enablement is an equity issue. Our Path to Clean carbon emissions goals have equity at the core. In fact, I always say we need to put more energy into our equity efforts and more equity into our energy ones. Let me pause here and say, equity is not the same thing as equality. Equity means providing each person the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome, even if those resources or opportunities look different person to person or group to group. As we build a clean energy future, we must do so in a way that includes underserved and under-resourced communities in technological progress. In other words, we cannot afford to leave poor communities or communities of color behind when addressing harmful emissions. So think about those cities that I'm privileged to serve. Some of the most diverse and under-resourced communities also in our country. See, we don't see equity as an issue on the periphery of our business. It's a core component and woven throughout our work. We take it as seriously as we do the delivery of safe, reliable, and ever cleaner energy to our customers. At Exelon, we're also acutely aware that we can't leave behind the communities we serve when it comes to economic health either. We have a responsibility to help our communities become stronger and more resilient. Let me share with you just a few ways we've committed to empowering the communities that we serve. In 2021, Exelon spent $2.9 billion with diversity certified suppliers, growing our total spend more than 56% from 2016 to 2021. We have a former commissioner from the Illinois Commerce Commission with us today, and we talked about it, and I thanked her for her leadership in this very space because Illinois was a driver and a leader of this across the country. without legislation. That partnership allowed us to take that program across all of Exelon and make an impact and drive a difference in our communities. We're not just hiring these qualified companies, we're investing in them. I'm proud to announce that a $36 million racial equity capital fund we launched in the fall, which will invest in minority-owned businesses in the communities we serve, is now open for applications. This quarter, we'll be announcing the businesses that are receiving these investment dollars. Now, why is that important? It's important because we know one of the biggest hindrances or obstacles to a business, a minority business growing, is access to capital. So instead of just talking about it, we said, let's do something about it. And that's our Racial Equity Capital Fund. It's important to know that we're not the administrator of that fund. We seeded it, hired an investment manager, because this is going to be an evergreen fund, that it's not a grant, it's a loan, where they will pay it back and get dividends just like anything else. And we will judge our investment manager on that performance. And what's great about it, when you take that point and lead, what happens is other businesses around say, hey, I don't have 36 million to make this effort, but I have $1 million. Can I invest it into your fund? The answer is absolutely. So that's what I talk about. We can all sit back and agree on things, but what are we doing? In addition, we recently launched a diverse supplier development program that will invest in a separate set of minority-owned businesses through grants, mentoring, and leadership sessions. Now, while we're supporting businesses, our efforts also focuses on individuals. Our workforce development programs have been recognized by the Center for Energy Workforce Development, but more than that, they are creating family-sustaining jobs through STEM and vocational education for customers in our service areas. And last month, we announced $2.4 million in scholarships to 24 college freshmen selected for our HBCU Corporate Scholars, for those of you who don't know, historically black in colleges and universities, program. We launched it in partnership with the United Negro College Fund. Each of these students who are attending a historically black college or university will receive $25,000 of need-based aid each year for 4 years, a total of up to $100,000, as well as internships at Exelon and mentoring relationships with our executives. The program will help prepare these students for rewarding careers at Exelon and in the energy industry. That's putting energy into equity and equity into energy. Investing in these students is part of building a more equitable future, but I'm also hopeful that these bright young minds, will bring new ideas and energy to the goal of a clean energy future. The UN report also shared some solutions for change, many of which we've all heard before, such as moving toward more renewable energy and electrification of transportation. But it also mentioned that there needs to be significant financial support for poor countries unable to pay for the kinds of climate mitigation efforts all of us in this room are working so hard to implement. That's the UN, the United Nations, saying to all of us, think about equity and think about it globally. They're absolutely right. But I go so far as to say that some of us could be doing a better job of thinking about it in our own backyards. If you read the UN report carefully, it's a hard pill to swallow. The researchers aren't shy about turning their hottest glare on governments and corporations, businesses like ours. I know many of you in this room, like us at Exelon, are doing your part. But we have to do more. We have to do it bigger. We have to do it faster. And we have to do it equitably. If we're going to meet this moment, we must continue to fight for state and federal policies that aggressively address climate change and its disproportionate effects on underserved and under-resourced communities. Exelon has sketched out a roadmap for how the business community can step up and address the urgency of the climate problem when public policies fall short or too often are simply absent. Our efforts can also serve as a model for how our climate efforts can be designed to ensure that the benefits of our actions are shared equitably, especially in vulnerable communities. We, and all of us, still have a long way to go, as the UN report makes clear. But the first step is recognizing that it's up to each of us to do our part to create a cleaner and more equitable future for our grandchildren, our communities, and our world. I throw that out there not to bring you down, but I throw it out there to you so we understand the gravity of what we're all facing. But more importantly, the opportunity that we all have. And with that, I thank Z Prime and each of you for knowing and rolling up your sleeves and getting to work. And I'm be open to answer any questions. Thank you.
Hi, Calvin. We have a couple questions here. We'll start with, you were recently among a group of energy executives who met with President Biden. How did that come to be, and what was that discussion?
Yeah, thank you. It was a good meeting. And I tell you this, a little sidebar. No matter you forget, because of how our politics is right now, how impactful it is to be in the White House and walk down the corridors, all the history and what it means, and what a privilege it is to be in our country and what it represents, our democracy. So that meeting was with 8 executives with the president to really talk about a couple of things. One, Build Back Better and its potential, and where EEI, Edison Electric Institute, as an industry, was leaning into that conversation to say, Mr. President, we support it because it's very important as we sit back and talk about a more resilient and secure grid. The federal dollars are important because it goes to a couple of key points. One, the equity issue I just talked about. As many of you may know, in Build Back Better, they had about $4 billion allocated for used electric vehicles. I think used electric vehicles up to 25,000, had to be over 1 year old and had under 25,000 or so, to give that, to allow people to afford EVs. That's one. Also components in there to build infrastructure in those under-resourced communities. The second piece of that legislation, which is also big, as we all know, we have to build out our transmission system to be able to connect distributed energy resources to the grid and move it across the country. And what I was sharing with him at that meeting is that the tax benefits flow directly to my customers and allows this effort to be more affordable. So we talked about that. And I shared with them, and Secretary Granholm was also in that meeting, we talked about what you're not talking about, Mr. President, in terms of the messaging, or Madam Secretary, talk about the equity and affordability issues, because that's what drives people to take home to their communities, these congressmen and women, to sit back and talk about it from a broader standpoint. And we then had a side meeting with Secretary Granholm and the different representatives from the different security agencies, to talk about the security of the grid, both physical and cybersecurity. And it's even more important today when we look at some of the things that are happening on the world stage, the war in Ukraine, and what they're talking about. Cybersecurity issues remain a hot topic. So that was the issue.
Thank you. We'll end with this question. If you had to have one word that people thought of when they thought of Exelon, what would that word be?
Wow. Committed. Committed to providing a reliable and resilient system across all of our jurisdictions. Committed to having a positive impact on our communities. Committed to employing people from the communities that we serve. And committed in being a difference maker. And it's a journey for us. It really is. As I like to say, we're not your grandfather's utility company. But we still have a long way to go. And it's because of partnerships with many of you in this room, we've gotten better. I talk about the $2.5 billion that we spend with minority suppliers and women-owned businesses and the like. I always say, as we were spending those dollars, about 46% of our total spend, it's those suppliers that have made us better. Our system is experiencing record reliability across the entire ecosystem. Our customer feedback and ratings have never been higher. And I believe it's because of how we lean in and partner with you as suppliers and with our communities. That's making us better, because so often some of the smaller companies help us be better because of the innovative approach that you bring to your business. So committed.
All right. We're gonna have you stay up here real quick for us.
So thank you, Calvin. Thank you, everyone. And so you saw me announce the Thought Leader of the Year earlier. It was Jackie Sargent for 2022. But in 2020, it was our first year virtual, and Calvin won that award. And you just heard why, right? Because he's driving change in a big way. But we have a special. We just want to give you the official award. And so in 2020, our theme was To the Moon. And so our artist who made this by hand, it's a footprint of the astronaut's footprint on the moon. That was the theme in 2020. And Calvin, just want to continue to thank you for your leadership and always championing change and challenging us for moonshots every day.
Yeah. Thank you.